My name is Sherry Buckborough, and I'm an art historian, and I'm chair of the art history department at the University of Hartford. And during that time, I've taught a lot of courses on a lot of different topics, mostly in modern and contemporary, but oh gosh, perhaps maybe 10 years ago, I began teaching courses on ecological art, which is about the time that the topic or the concept of eco-art began to be practiced by artists across the world. So it was certainly time to introduce it on campus. I've always been a supporter of ecological issues and movements, and so that provided the basis for beginning to work with Park Watershed.
I'm Mary Rickle-Pelletier. I'm the founding director of Park Watershed. Park Watershed is a 501c3 urban suburban watershed stewardship organization for the Park River Regional Watershed. The Park River Regional Watershed is a 78 square mile watershed within the greater Connecticut River watershed. It includes the North Branch of the Park River and the South Branch of the Park River. Both of those branches are sub-watershed. The North Branch is a 28 square mile sub-watershed to the greater Park River watershed, and the South Branch is a 50 square mile watershed. The South Branch includes Trout Brook, most of West Hartford, Piper Brook, Bass Brook, parts of Eastern Farmington, New Britain, little bits of Rocky Hill, parts of Newington, and a little bits of Weathersfield. The North Branch of the Park River, which is where the University of Hartford is, includes 60% of Bloomfield, which is actually about 68% of the Park River North Branch watershed, and it includes the northwestern neighborhoods of West Hartford, which compose about 18% of the North Branch Park River subwatershed. So only 11% of the North Branch Park River watershed is actually within the city of Hartford, within the northwestern neighborhoods of the city. So it's great to have Mary Miss come back to campus and to provide another workshop and help us revisit some of the ideas of incorporating a more established, a seasonally engagement practices within Hartford Art School or within the university as a whole, so that we could understand how the City is Living Lab idea is not just kind of a one-off, an episodic event every few years, but that we understand maybe how Park River Regional Watershed becomes something that we continue to learn about, not only as artists and as designers, but the history of it, the legal issues surrounding it, the need to understand a green economy that would help support some of the changes that need to be made to conserve, but also to revitalize parts of the North Branch and other watersheds around the world. So Mary Miss, always optimistic and lovely, came in September, and she showed us the work she had done on the White River in Indianapolis, which was a significant grant with the National Science Foundation and the Indianapolis Museum of Art that built some beautiful sculptural pieces, site-specific sculptural pieces, and it was an inspiring take on what ways forward into new strategies of engagement for artists and also for scientists and persons interested in our urban waterways.
Remember, we had a full day conference on water issues and brought in people from the state and scholars from other institutions, and we had about 150 people at that conference, and it was really quite successful in raising awareness about about the river, which is right on our campus, going through our campus. And in fact, we called that conference Water at Our Doorstep, which seemed to ring well. I think it still does. The finale for that year-long series of events was an exhibition in the Joseph Gallery by Mary Miss.
Mary Miss had the lecture at in the middle part of the day, and then in the afternoon the classes met her in the Silpy Gallery to see the large map that was on the floor, to talk with Mary Miss and hear her perspective on her work. I think what's interesting to me is that you have students from very different disciplines, from the social sciences, from the sciences, or from the arts and humanities, and they're going to address a problem like environmental degradation in very different ways. And it's really inspiring to hear Mary Miss, to see her work, to see how she's tried to help people connect with their landscape and to connect with their communities. So you have this great experience of hearing her give a lecture where she's sharing all these amazing projects, and then you get to hear her talk about your own campus and what she's done there.
That was kind of nice, and she worked with the gallery to put on an exhibition that was both in the gallery and outside on the grounds of the campus. And you have the map that was produced for that event, which in which she marked certain places on around the campus grounds that are important for us to be thinking about in terms of their significance for water issues on campus.
Last semester, when I worked with Dr. Buckborough, we had our students on a couple of occasions come in together and share their work with each other. And I think there's a lot of added value for students in that, because an art historian and someone who's interested in policy are going to approach environmental problems in very different ways. And so we had projects where students were thinking about problems and applying what they were learning in the classes to try to address these issues and problems. To see a little more closely how, for example, a group of students in design and from the art school are going to try to envision our campus as more environmentally sound or environmentally friendly, which was what their projects were a little bit about. Some of them were addressing sort of design elements, and some of them were artistic responses to issues on campus. And then my students, on the other hand, were thinking about the problems or the challenges with the river and for the most part, pollution and sort of the challenges that watersheds deal with in terms of pollution. And they were sharing their projects with the art history and art and design students.
The day that we went and sort of had done that, we did that Mary Miss walk with just, I think it was Ross and yourself, and we were able to sort of follow the markers around in a lot of the places like I had never been to on campus before. And it was interesting to sort of see that, like, oh, I've walked across this bridge X amount of times since I've been here at school, but I've never really taken the time to sort of go and appreciate these different places because I never knew they existed. Mm-hmm. And I think that even people that are environmentally minded themselves sort of put it off to the side when there are other places that you would go and see. And I think it would be really good to be able to show more students this, because I know personally I was amazed at sort of how beautiful the landscape was, and it really made me want to pursue the project further, because you want to do as much as you can to preserve what you have already. So I think that was one of the most memorable times. And the Mary Miss presentation was also excellent to be able to showcase in a way that a lot of students could see, even by going and walking over the map and really visualizing how large the river is in terms of the school. A lot of people weren't able to do that prior to that project. So I think that was an excellent opportunity for students to be able to become involved with the environment on the campus. And so I think that was a great part of the project itself.
Mary Miss come in, who's a very famous artist, come in and talk to us about the work that she did, and she's very big into environmental activism through art. And that was really unique for me, being a politics and government major, thinking that the only way you could do activism or enact change is through meetings and graphs and data and boring things. And then she came in and really enlightened me into how you can, you know, still convey the same thoughts and ideas, but in a way that engages people and, you know, gets them interested. And it's not just she doesn't lecture people, she shows people on like how their communities are infected by the environment and how they impact the environment. So that was really unique, and I really enjoyed that. And I know a lot of students did also, because it was a perspective that I don't think many people think about or have seen before. So it was very, very interesting.
It's an incredible opportunity for our students. And I think the arts can provide something really important when you're looking at these kinds of problems or thinking about these kinds of issues. Everything can't be addressed just from a water quality perspective, but we are people and we connect with these places, and so how we feel about them and how we respond to them are also, it's a really important part of the big picture of the whole story. So I think Mary Miss bringing in that sort of arts component and asking people not just to recognize this waterway has pollutants in it, but to ask us to think and reflect on that in a deeper way is really an important experience for our students.
Most of the students became very involved in the issues of the river and want to publicize more, to use their skills as artists or as communicators to send a message to the public, and particularly the public of the rest of the campus, that we need to be thinking about the river more and we need to be taking better care of it. I think that my students were particularly, and they began to realize something that they hadn't really focused on before, which is that there's a lot of trash on campus and that trash makes its way into the river. And that seemed to be the focus of a lot of their concern. It was something they saw that they could actually affect change within a semester.
It was the first time that I had been to the sub-gallery, because as a science student you never sort of ventured to that part of the school. So I think that was really great to be able to work with the architecture students in doing that, and I really was able to, it was great to see like a collaboration between all the different areas of the school and how it was coming together, and everyone was interested as to how you had contributed to the project and sort of why you were involved in being there, and it starts a discussion as to like, the importance of what you're doing. And I think it was a great idea to be able to do that, and I wish more people were able to come in and see it and really get more exposure, but it was great.
I think that she herself has opened up the field there so that Cydia's Living Laboratory is providing a kind of national or international template for working between water issues particularly and urban issues. We're seeing all of this as a package which bit by bit grows awareness about the Park River watershed and the relation of art to that system.